Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to share something a little different, a story from my past that feels like it belongs in one of those old romantic movies. It's the story of how I, Tomoko Higashikata, met a man who changed my life forever. His name was Joseph Joestar. It was 1983. I was just 21, a university student here in Morio. Life felt like a straight road, predictable and safe. I was studious, a bit shy, and my biggest worry was passing my exams. Love? Romance? Those were things I read about in books, not something I expected to find in my quiet town. Then, one snowy winter evening, everything changed. I was walking home from the library, buried under a pile of books, when I slipped on a patch of ice. I remember the world tilting, the books flying, and bracing for a hard fall. But it never came. Instead, a pair of strong, gentle arms caught me. When I looked up, I saw him. He was older, clearly a foreigner, with a kind face and eyes that held a mischievous twinkle even in the dim streetlight. He had this incredible presence, an air of confidence and adventure that was completely new to me. "Are you all right, miss?" he asked, his voice warm and with a charming English accent. I was so flustered I could barely stammer out a yes. He helped me gather my scattered books, his movements surprisingly agile. He introduced himself as Joseph, a real estate agent from New York visiting Morio. He had a way of speaking that was both grand and completely down to earth. He told me he was looking for a property, but he seemed more interested in learning about my little town. I found myself opening up to him in a way I never had with anyone before. He was a fantastic listener. I told him about my studies, my dreams of being a teacher, and even my silly little worries. He, in turn, shared incredible stories of his travels, of New York, of a life so vast and exciting, it felt like something from a fantasy novel. He never spoke down to me. He treated me like an equal, like my small world was just as fascinating as his big one. We started meeting for coffee. Those simple coffee dates became the highlight of my week. He was a true gentleman, always pulling out my chair, always making me laugh with a perfectly timed joke. He had this youthful energy that defied his age. One moment he'd be complaining about his aching back, and the next he'd be enthusiastically trying to mimic a Japanese phrase I'd taught him, usually with hilarious results. There was a depth to him, too. Beneath the playful exterior, I could sense a man who had lived a full, complex life. Sometimes, a shadow would cross his eyes when he spoke of the past, a hint of battles fought and loved ones lost. It made him more real, more human. It made me feel a profound connection to him, a desire to understand the man behind the larger-than-life persona. I remember one afternoon we were walking by the coast. The sea breeze was crisp. He stopped and looked out at the ocean, and for a moment, he seemed so far away. Then he turned to me, his gaze soft. He told me that Morio, and the time he'd spent with me, had brought a peace to his heart he hadn't felt in a long time. That was the moment I knew. I was in love. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic realization. It was a quiet, certain warmth that had been growing in my heart since the day he caught me in the snow. It was a feeling of being seen, of being cherished, of being home. Our time together was beautiful, but we both knew it was fleeting. He had a life, a family waiting for him back in America. It was a reality we never spoke of, but it hung in the air between us. We cherished every moment, knowing our story had an expiration date. There were no grand declarations, no promises of a future together. There was just the quiet understanding between two people who had found something special, a perfect, beautiful moment in time. The day he left was the hardest. He held my hands at the train station, his usual playful smile replaced by something more tender, more somber. He said, "Tomoko, you have a spirit as strong and beautiful as a diamond. Never let anyone tell you otherwise." He didn't say "I love you," and neither did I. We didn't need to. We could see it in each other's eyes. He boarded the train, and as it pulled away, he looked back at me, raising his hand in a final, gentle wave. I stood there long after the train disappeared, tears streaming down my face, but with a smile on my lips. It was a sad goodbye, but I wasn't filled with regret. How could I be? I had experienced a love that most people only dream of. A few months later, I discovered I was pregnant. I wasn't scared. I was overjoyed. I had a piece of him, a living, breathing reminder of our incredible love. And that's how my wonderful son, Josuke, came into the world. He has his father's spirit, that same kindness, that same inner strength. Every time I look at him, I'm reminded of that snowy evening and the incredible man who stumbled into my life. Our story wasn't a fairy tale with a happily ever after. It was a short, beautiful chapter. But it's a chapter that defined me, that gave me the greatest gift of my life. And for that, I will be forever grateful. He was my Joseph and I was his Tomoko, and for a brief shining moment in Morio, we had it all. Thank you so much for listening to my story today. It means a lot to share this part of my life with you all. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more stories. See you next time.